Now, the U.S. has put sanctions back on Iran that were previously eliminated by the JCPOA agreement. Now, the United States recognizes that a lot of countries in the world, particularly ones that are U.S. allies, have decided to continue receiving oil shipments anyway. For example, South Korea asked for an exemption from the sanctions and embargo against Iranian oil. India says that they're going to continue taking the oil, and so has China. So, in response to these countries defying the U.S. on their sanctions, they have had the State Department Special Representative on Iran, Brian Hook, go out and warn these countries that they could have serious insurance liabilities. Like there would be a problem with insurance if they were to take these Iranian oil tankers. Essentially, the major insurance companies in the world that usually cover things like this have banned Iran from doing business as a result of the sanctions. Thus, it has fallen on domestic insurance companies in Iran to cover these oil shipments, and the U.S. warns that any kind of environmental catastrophe would be something well beyond the ability of these Iranian companies to cover. Oil spills and accidents involving tankers are extremely costly, from the Suez Canal to the Strait of Malacca, and all choke points in between. Iranian tankers are now a floating liability. Countries, ports, and canal operators and private firms should know that they will be likely responsible for the cost of an accident involving a self-insured Iranian tanker. Now, they refer to a specific incident, the oil tanker Sanchi, which in January suffered an accident in the South China Sea, which resulted in the loss of the ship and 32 people on board, which was a bit of an environmental disaster. Not a major one that we've seen with many U.S. companies, but it definitely one nonetheless. Now, what the U.S. is also accusing Iran of is engaging in unsafe practices by disabling their transponders, which would put out a signal where they are, what they're doing so that other ships could avoid them, etc. But Iran has to do so in order to get around the unjust and illegal U.S. sanctions. Now, this is something also the State Department attacked. The tactic is a maritime security threat. These transponders are designed to maximize visibility at sea, and turning them off only increases risks of accident and injuries. Self-insured Iranian tankers engaging in unsafe behavior with many tons of crude oil on board are courting environmental and financial disaster. This is all very ironic that suddenly the U.S. has this tremendous concern, because if they really did care, then they would not have pushed these sanctions on Iran to begin with. Iran has to use domestic insurers because they have blocked them from using the international insurance group. They have to turn off their transponder in order to carry out their global oil trade because the United States is unlawfully blocking them. So this concern by the U.S. for the public or even the environment is even doubly laughable in the face of the choices by the Trump administration to essentially get rid of almost every environmental regulation that there is. So I really call BS on this. This is complete and utter nonsense. Besides, when it comes to caring about the environment and the threat of spills, it's the U.S. which has allowed many companies, for example, many people probably remember the Deepwater Horizon incident, in which BP was engaged in very unsafe practices in the Gulf of Mexico. And as a result of the accident which occurred there, the U.S. turned around and protected the company from liability. So they talk a very big game about being concerned about ultimate liability, concern for the environment, yet their actions stand in complete contrast to that. Now, the U.S.'s actions, of course, are wholly based on protecting corporations, to protect those who own capital. Imagine that. The people in capitalism who wield power are those who hold capital. Now, of course, it should be noticed that this is just an attempt to try to de-incentivize or scare people into not accepting Iranian oil. However, this does fall flat on its face with regards to the fact that these countries need oil in order to operate. The U.S. is just looking for some kind of moral high ground to stand on when it comes to trying to get people to reject Iranian oil shipments, a problem which would not exist if the unlawful U.S. sanctions did not exist to begin with. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.